Magandang hapon po to the DOTR family. My first question, alam ko marami na nagtanong tungkol dun sa disbursement rate ng ating mga subway projects. But I'd like to know, ano ba ang dapat nauna? Yung project na ilagay o yung right of way na kailangan para i-clear yung project? May I know an answer to this para maayos din natin dito sa Congress on how we could avoid having these problems?
Mr. Chair, may I answer? Ideally, and the OTR has consistently maintained the position that there should be prior ROW before project implementation. However, this is not the case in accordance with national government policies, since the national government policy as of now is that there should first be a loan agreement before funds for right-of-way acquisition should commence.
So, Madam Chair, to the rest of my colleagues, and Mr. Chair, how do we now solve this problem? Mr. Secretary, is there something that you want us to do here in Congress to address this situation? Otherwise, magiging chicken and egg tayo palagi dito at hindi tayo magkakaroon ng katapusan sa mga proyekto natin.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, I think it's, if the DOTR may be allowed to explain, if we do not acquire, as per our experience, the most difficult part of project implementation is right-of-way acquisition. It will be very difficult if we have a loan agreement and then bid it out and then award the contract if right-of-way acquisition has not yet been implemented. So we are not trying to say that there should be 100% right-of-way acquisition prior to project implementation or prior to award of contracts, but at least there should be a substantial commencement of right-of-way acquisition even prior to a loan agreement.
Madam Chair, or Mr. Chair, how do we now solve this problem? I think something has to be done. Like they said, it's a national government policy na dapat unahin yung loan agreement bago magkaroon ng right-of-way. Paano kung wala ngang loan agreement? Paano na yung right-of-way? Paano yung project na inalat natin? So I think something has to be done with the national government policy, Mr. Chair. Saan ba mag-emanate dapat ito, Mr. Chair, through you?
Madam Chair, this is should be discussed with the DBM.
Maybe I'd like to put that on record so that when DBM is here, we have to discuss that with them, Mr. Chair, para naman magkaroon ng kaayusan yung issue nito.
We have DBM here, so we'd like...
Yes, can we ask DBM to answer the question, please? Thank you.
What's your name and position at the DBM?
Maria Cecilia Abogado, Director 3 from DMPA, Department of Budget and Management po. Regarding the issue of providing right-of-way prior to the signing of loan agreements, actually, we have an issue on that since as regards the funding for right-of-way, aside from the provision under GOP counterpart for foreign assisted projects, the DOTR also has a lump sum fund just for right-of-way. And for 2024, for example, the DOTR had continuing appropriations in the amount of around 10 billion from 2023, since we provided around 12.4 billion for right-of-way as lump sum. We were only able to release a certain amount, 1.6 billion for Dumaguete and Katbalogan. So leaving around 10 billion in continuing appropriations. And out of that, we have only utilized, the OTR was only able to request, and we were able to release around 7 billion. So leaving around 4 billion in continuing appropriations from 2023 and another 2.8 billion as current appropriations. So with that, aside from the issue of unreleased appropriations, we also saw quite low utilization rate when it comes to obligation and disbursement. Hence, we are somewhat concerned on why this low utilization rate, but we already discussed that during the technical budget hearing with the DOTR, And some issues were raised as regards, I think, pending cases and some other issues as regards, I think the claims, the amount of claims. So maybe the OTR is in the best position to discuss it po. So and then as regards the issue of providing right of way prior to the signing of the loan agreement, um, we would want to reiterate that we want to fund as much as possible implementation ready projects given the very limited fiscal space. Because if you have very limited fiscal space, why would we wouldn't want to spread our budget too thinly. So we would want to invest on projects that are implementation ready and are sure. Kasi I don't want to cite examples that are very specific, but we have projects whose loan agreements were not signed or whose loan agreements did not push through. So what if we already bought or made an offer to buy those land which we will not be using or we will not be using in our projects in the construction of these railways, for example, anyway. So,
Mr. Chair.
opo.
Yeah. Mr. Chair,
Sige,
may I
Bea.
know the reply of the OTR with regards to this?
Director Abogado, tama po ba yung sinasabi ng DOTR na requirement po ang loan agreement para sa right-of-way acquisition? Yun po yung tanong. Pero doon po sa sinasabi ninyo, parang hindi. Short answer.
Short answer po, given the very limited fiscal space, we would want to invest on projects that are implementation ready.
Hindi, sorry, ang tinatanong lang is, bago po makapag right-of-way acquisition, required po ba ng loan agreement?
In order to give a more concrete example, as much as I would like to refrain from citing very specific projects, we have three
Hindi
projects.
specific po, general.
Mr. Chair.
Kasi yun ang pagkakaintindi ng
Yes or no
DOTR.
lang sagot doon, Mr. Chair.
Yes or no lang po. Yun ang pagkakaintindi kasi ng DOTR. There's a general requirement by DBM that in order for them to acquire right of way, kailangan nilang magpakita ng loan agreement. Yes or no lang po.
Even for FAPs po, for those projects that does not have perfected loan agreements yet, we set it aside under unprogrammed appropriations. And then po, for right-of-way, given the very limited fiscal space, we have several projects po kasi that were proposed for funding under China, for example, which did not push through. So if we already made an offer to buy these parcels of land that we thought will be affected by the implementation of these projects, what will now happen if these projects were not actually implemented or were delayed in terms of implementation because of the problems with
Madam,
Mr.
source.
Chair.
so ibig sabihin no. Ibig sabihin nakakapag-allow kayo ng right of way acquisitions kahit wala pong proof na merong loan agreement.
Actually po, we have already advised the OTR during our TBH that they have a lump sum for right-of-way acquisition.
So tama po, they can proceed with right of way acquisition kahit walang utang.
The only requirement po under the 2024 GAA special provision was for a list of validated claims from the DOTR. But we have advised them that we were given specific examples of certain projects wherein they were, I think we can cite PNR South Long Hall, I guess. Or Subic, I don't know. Wherein you were already able to proceed with right of way, even without the loan agreement. I'm not sure.
For a very specific example, Madam Chair, we requested for release of SARO from our existing lump sum row funds. We requested specifically for 2.08 billion for MRT4, an ODA project with ADB, but actually DBM denied that. It's not a request for funding. It's not a request for putting in NEP. We're just asking for release of SARO. for 2.08 billion, but DBM actually denied our request because we don't have loan agreement yet for MRT4.
Mr. Chair, may we have an
Yeah,
answer from
COMPH,
DBM?
COMPH.
May have an answer from DBM. Policy ba or hindi? Simple lang naman yung tanong. Tulungan mo naman kami sagutin. Yes or no? Kasi nalilito rin ang DOTR dito.
Actually po, the specific example would be in the case of the PNR South Long Haul. Since
Teka lang, Mr. Chair, sagutin mo na lang yung MRT4. Bakit na-deny yung request nila?
yes po, the same reason po, no loan agreement for MRT4.
Okay, so no loan agreement. So ano nga? So ibig sabihin policy nga, kasi nga sinasabi nila, ang hirap magkaroon ng ganong policy because paano ka rin magkaka-project na ma-approve ang loan agreement kung walang right of way? It's chicken and egg eh. So walang mangyayaring project sa atin dito kung TPM will always control it without a right of way. Hindi rin magkaka-loan agreement kung wala ring right of way. So how do we now settle this?
Madam Chair, actually po, we have already told them about the lump sum they have for Rome. We're in the only requirement under the
Wait,
special
but that's
provision.
what he's talking about. He requested the release of Saro from the lump sum of the road that you denied.
Actually po, we have provided them an advice of SARO issued wherein we have cited the lack of loan agreement for the purpose. So we also do that even for the GOP component of the projects. We yung sa PNR South Long Haul.
Mr. Chair, for the interest of time, baka dapat ayusin ng DBM yung policy together with DOTR and before plenary. Can you please submit to this committee para naman may direction tayo? Either oo or hindi, ano dapat ang ayusin? I think it's very simple. Huwag natin gawin complicated. Kung gusto natin matupad ng mga project sa to, naglalagay kami ng pondo dito pero hindi nila magamit kasi walang right of way.